Jim Wagner, and I'm 57 years old, and I'm starting to struggle the more I get into these videos to keep a little bit more composed. It's tough. I have OCD, and I have harm OCD, and what I'm starting to realize, and this is my main video for the night. What I'm starting to realize is OCD is tricky. I can refer to it into the third person. It kind of knows you're onto it when you commit to recovery, which is what we're talking about tonight. It gets tougher. It gets sneakier. It's definitely the devil, and it's and it's proof that I have. It's proof that God exists because the devil's there. And so I just wanted to talk to you about recovery tonight and how I'm going about it. So I committed to recovery after years and years of embarrassing experiences. Harm OCD. Harm OCD is the following. Harm OCD is, I have to describe that to you, right? Before I explain to you the cure, why the type of cure I'm taking, the root, which is exposure with response prevention, ERP, which I'll refer to a lot as we go forward, cognitive behavioral therapy, the big guys say, and girls. So a harm OCD is simply this. I'm standing in a room with my ex-girlfriend's house, and her mom just loved me. Yeah, I didn't have money, I didn't have direction, I didn't appear intelligent to her. She had a master's degree. She was smart. But I didn't have any of that stuff. And she knew that I was probably not going anywhere. She wasn't right, but that's what she thought. And yeah, so there was always that tension, and I wish nothing but the best for people. I don't have anything against anybody. I'm going to continue this thought because I've never hurt anybody, but I'm going to continue this thought. And you're standing next to somebody who creates tension for you. For me, that's called a trigger. And the trigger means, did I just slap that person in the face? No, I didn't. I didn't, and I wouldn't. And as a matter of fact, I feel obligated to say this now. I'm actually very much an advocate for women's safety, and I've worked with a shelter before to maybe I had a woman that was from a battered shelter, a battered women's shelter that I was trying to help, show self-defense to. I just felt like I had to say that. I didn't articulate that well, but that's because I was scared of what I just said. But it's OCD, and it's not real, and it's not. It's just a trigger, and the trigger was, in this particular case, this woman just didn't like me. I liked her, but it didn't matter if I liked her. I liked her. She didn't like me. It's kind of a disparity for the room. And I'm like walking past her. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't just push her over, did I? And I didn't. Of course, I just didn't, and I never have or would. It's just that, and to be honest with you, I think she could take me, but it's because there was tension, and I never think to myself when I'm in a room with somebody when there's tension, did I just punch that guy, that strong, healthy dude in the jaw? Like, I'm not saying that's below me. I'm just saying, if I thought I did, I wouldn't worry about it. So there's my loose cannon. But if I thought I did, I wouldn't worry about it. But if I walk past a woman or a kid or an elderly person or saw a handicapped person or anybody where there's going to be some type of front page headline in the Daily News tomorrow, like young North Jersey stockbroker with all his life ahead of him knocks out vulnerable old woman in wheelchair with history of depression and socioeconomic pressures. So driving down the street now, kids on bikes constantly flying in front of my car, like it's like a magnet. My car for it's horrible to say that, right? It's horrible to say that, but it is my reality. So I've never hurt anybody. I never hit anybody in my car and kept going. it's not. I wouldn't stop because it was a crime. I would stop because it's the right thing to do. But I've never done it, and I also don't drive fast enough to do that. And I also am very alert. Um, but I still yet I can't back my car up. I get out of my car in the morning. Every morning I back my car up in my driveway. All my neighbors look at me. I live with that embarrassment every morning. And this is going to start picking up right now. And then it takes me about 10 minutes to get out of a 50-foot, 30-foot driveway as I'm driving. Um, I can't, in a supermarket, be near the fruit because it's exposed. And I think I'm going to put something in it, like a thumbtack or a piece of glass or poison. I can't do it. That's exactly what I think is going to happen just because I walked past it. If I touch something in the supermarket, I have to buy it. And if I mistakenly touch something, in the ladies' aisle, for saying, I got some type of hygiene product and clearly don't need that, I buy it because I feel like I infected it somehow or spoiled it or hurt it. And I don't want anybody to get hurt as a result of my actions. I go to grab frozen burgers in the walk-in not walk-in, but the big door refrigerator, and I think as I shut it, a kid gets in there, and then I have to stay in that aisle perpendicular to it for about 10 minutes, looking like I belong in the aisle, staring at that door to make sure that I didn't lock a kid in there. It's just the way it is. The OCD is horrible. Those things sound ridiculous. If I were you, well, depending on who you are, if you have this issue, it's nothing to laugh at. But like, I talk to my brother and I love him. He just rolls his eyes, stop talking. I can't. He doesn't want to hear it. But some of my friends, they smile at me. I don't expect them to understand. They're not doctors. They don't get it and they don't have it. I know they don't have it because they don't get it and they laugh. Nobody who has this laughs. Doesn't make them evil. It just means they don't. It's proof they don't have it. I'm getting to ERP now, because there's 1,000 million little items that are examples of OCD. But okay, so the cure is brutal. The things that I just described, okay, go like this. I walk down an aisle. Okay, here comes the OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. The obsession is I knocked into an item on a shelf, something I clearly don't need. Who cares? And, it could be just a brand of it could be like a brand of soda I don't like, but I touched it somehow. I gotta buy it because I touched it. So, two things happened there. I had an intrusive thought negatively about poisoning a bottle of soda. Three things. I got immediate anxiety. So here's the third thing. I relieved myself of the pressure of that anxiety by buying the soda. I have a cabinet full of soda that I don't drink. Obsessive compulsive. It's a disorder. The D is for disorder. I have a mental illness. It's a disorder. So my goal is to stop buying the soda. That's good for my teeth. Not good for the economy, but good for everything else. Now we go into bigger things. I'm driving down the road on the way home from that grocery store with soda in the car that I don't want. I'm trying to not think about it right now. But that's on my mind. Everything accumulates. Everything's a trigger. Triggers are isolated events or the accumulation of smaller events. And eventually it's not that you can't take it and you're going to like hurt some. It's like you just can't take it. And then what it does is it triggers you to have another obsession. Such an obsession is driving through an intersection and thinking you hit a kid, or a pedestrian, or a stroller probably because they're vulnerable, or an old person because they're vulnerable, or a handicapped person because they're vulnerable. Never like all-American halfback or somebody who just graduated from Yale with honors as a business and is healthy and vibrant and ready to go and take out. There's always somebody who's slightly impaired, because that's the worst crime. Hurting somebody who's um, hurting somebody who's vulnerable, and that's the only victim I ever see in my head. And I've never hit anybody or hurt anybody. And so then what happens is I go through that intersection, and I have that intrusive thought, and then I have this immediate anxiety, which is soul crunching, and then I pull over to the side of the road to make sure that I didn't just hit anybody in the intersection, so I can pull over to the side of the road, look back, physically prove to myself I didn't hit anybody. But by pulling over the side of the road, it says start a whole new set of problems. Not to mention that it's just dangerous. I pull in front of someone's house on the road so I can stop, look back. And what if like kids are playing in their driveway? That's not cool. Like then you're scaring them. Or somebody's raking the lawn and they're like, what are you doing in front of my house? Like that's not cool. Like none of that's cool. And I always try to make it a point to not pull over in front of somebody, especially kids and stuff like that. Like, but I just, because I have to pull over to make sure I didn't just hit somebody. I have to look. Or if I can't do that, what I do is I just drive to the next turn, which is sometimes miles, and make a square and come all the way back and go through that intersection. So here's the night. Here's the night this happened. I was at the food town, I think it is, whatever, A&P I was at the A&P. I was at the A&P in Washington Township, and I got some things I needed and some things I didn't because I bumped into them, and got it in the car and because I got things I didn't need, and just because I'm gonna waste it, I didn't want it, and then and then it takes me there's 4 points of mayhem to get out of the supermarket. The supermarket. Getting out of the supermarket's tough because there's a handicapped girl that works there, and I always feel like, forgive me, Lord, I didn't just knock her over walking out, did I? I know, it's horrible to even talk about that, but it's what goes through my head, and it's real. It's real, so I have to talk about it. And by the time I get to my car, I'm like, okay, God help me, God help her, I didn't knock that poor girl over. And I wouldn't knock anybody over, but... So then I get to my car, and I sit there for a couple minutes, saying, I don't want to do this, I don't want to drive, I don't want to do this, I don't want to drive, it's just going to happen, and it might happen in 5 feet, might happen in 10 feet, or less. It might just be happening, and I just can't drive. Then I just sit there and idle for 15 minutes. Excuse me. God bless Jackie DeShannon. I try to I have a good sense of humor to make light of this stuff because it kills me. It's killing me right now. I actually feel sorry for the person I'm talking about. I'm like, it's me. Like this is horrible. It's me. So then 3 turns to get out, 2 rights and a left, and to get onto my road, and it's pure hell to do that. Whereas you got kids you got kids like with brand new licenses and brand new Camaros, flying out of that shopping center in old world speeds, and it's they could care less. Phone, steering wheel, girlfriend, and no seatbelt, focus, no care. Just I know I got to press that gas pedal. So I'm driving. I get out. Right, I get onto my road, and I'm driving down. I'm driving down the road to my light to get to the light that I need to be, and I pass my friend's restaurant. I love this kid and this family, and that's always a warm spot for me because this family is very. I love this family. It always makes me feel good when I drive by this restaurant. So I'm making the left there, and it's like a nice spot. I'm gonna go left here instead of straight because left's easier because I don't have to go through 2 intersections. If I go left, I just have to really go through 1, but it's really 2, isn't it? It's just not straight. And left, for some reason, is easier than straight. So I make a left, and as it turns out, bam! I think I hit a jogger. Because joggers run straight into cars, that's what they do. And then I drive down to my first turn, which I've done 100 times. Made a left on this cul-de-sac, but I don't use the cul-de-sac. I just use the first driveway, and it's hard for me to make right-hand turns in my car because it's a GTO, and so I have mechanical issues with my car. It works, it's just a grind. So I pull into a driveway and I'm backing up, and backing up's near impossible, and it's really difficult. And I'm like, oh my God, did I hit anybody? And I'm backing up because I'm backing up to check to see if I'm hitting. Well, I'm backing up to go back out to that intersection to see if I hit the jogger. But while I'm backing up, I have those new problems of backing up, and I think that I'm going to hurt somebody backing up because I can't. As I have a distorted view backing up, I don't trust backing up, which was really cool in my old Chevy Monza because my Monza didn't go in reverse. And I would use the cul-de-sac. I'd find the cul-de-sac. But this is a really good car. It's a Pontiac GTO. It actually goes in reverse. It's a new added feature for the current models, and which there are none. So I'm going in reverse, and sure shit, like my biggest fear is hitting somebody in reverse. But what do I see while I'm backing up? I see people. They're actually there. I'm not delusional, so I know when people are there. It's when they're not that I have an issue. But there's two people with their cell phones, using them as flashlights, walking their dogs, coming out of their driveway that I'm almost backing up into with my bad steering to get out of that cul-de-sac, to make a right, to go back to the intersection, to get to that road that I made the left on where I thought I hit the jogger because I was triggered by the brand of soda in the food town that I'm not into. But I bought it anyway. Anything for the small business. And those people who weren't talking on their phones, they were staring. They were biggest. This is my biggest fear. They were holding their flashlights at me, like Vince Vaughn in that movie, that Las Vegas. And they just were like, "What are you doing?" Like they weren't mad. They weren't doing anything wrong. The dogs weren't even. They're just like, "But what are you doing?" Like, because I was just there and not moving. I was just about to get out of my car to see if I did hit anybody. But once I saw people were there, I couldn't get out of my car because then that's actually reportably weird, not just weird. And they're staring at me and I'm like, oof, gotta go. And then I just lay on it now. I just creep out of that street to the stop sign, 2 miles an hour tops. I put the governor on 3. And then I made the right-hand turn to go back to the intersection, and I didn't hit the jogger. But I wasn't satisfied. I didn't hit the people that I was backing up towards. And it is at that point that I wished I had my Chevy Monza, because I can't go in reverse in my Chevy Monza. It would have been impossible. They wouldn't have been able to prove it. But that GTO, it can go back. Let me tell you. Back to the warning track, just like Bob Uecker or Bob Murphy would call it. That's a Mets game. That's an aside from my best friend, R. Kilstein. Not a Mets fan. Yankee fan, of course. So, look, that just triggered OCD. I don't want to say anything wrong. I don't hurt anybody. Want to do anything wrong. That's all parenthetical. I happen to be thinking it while I'm saying it. Sorry. So then I made that left, and I drive as far down as the Knights of Columbus. I was pulling there to catch my breath. It's like 80 yards. And I'm like, I gotta pull over because this has been a drive. And, excuse me. And I pulled over and I caught my breath. I'm like, okay, this sucks. This blows. I gotta go back now. I checked for the jogger. I got the soda. I dealt with the triggers. I made a 3-point turn in a car that was actually worse than the Chevy Monza because it can't make rights in my GTO on nights when it's cold. When it's below 50, it's tough. It freezes up the line. And I had to go back. So I went back. Oh my God, I went back. Again. Traffic light. Made it right this time. Now, if that jogger was there, they're toast. They're done. Because I went over them like 4 times. Didn't happen. I didn't have any. So now all I was gonna do is drive by that street, not go down it again, but drive by it creepily, slowly, just to make sure I didn't back up into those two pedestrians and their dogs. Um, Probably would have checked for the doggies first because that's where my heart is. And uh, I noticed that they were just still there though. Like they were just standing there. They walked about 10 feet. Maybe like the dogs were doing their business for that long, but it seemed weird. And when I drove by them, and they've gone all of 10 feet. Um, Flashlights on me again, staring at me, and the dogs were barking at me. It's like they must have given the dogs like the dogs got a whiff of my car, and they're like fetch, like GTO, get them. And it's like the dogs were on to me. They were on to me. They were probably videotaping me. There he is again, crazy GTO guy. He goes, we missed the days when Monzas used to rule these streets. Now we got G. And then I'm like, oh my god. Then I just panicked. Then I just kept going, went past the high school, and went to my friend's house, who shall remain nameless because he did nothing wrong. And pulled in front of his house. It was only 9 o'clock. Text him, came outside, talked to me, explained the entire situation to him. This is what we call enabling. He literally got in his car and drove to that area, just like the honorable. He's a loyal friend, just to make sure I didn't hurt the doggies first, the jogger, or and finally the two people with the cell phones, who to this day, a lot like that one classic video of Sasquatch, Bigfoot, times two though, with cell phones. I think I saw, and he checked that for me, so I was able to go home. So I was just able to go home. But what happened on the way home was because I had a heightened moment of exposure. You know, he enabled, but before I got to him, I was convinced that I had to drive home with the issue at large. Whenever I have an issue at large and I don't have an enabler, like say my friend wasn't home, I couldn't come out, I couldn't drive back, probably lied to me. Hope he did for his own sake, because he's nuts if he went back to check. Just God bless him for texting me an hour later saying, I've scoured the town and you're fine. Can you get me a good price on a Monson? When you're when you have an obsession and then you have that anxiety, obsession, then comes the anxiety. You have a choice right there, no matter what is going on. And your choice is, do I want to get better or do I want to keep this disease? Now, if you had a choice, forgive me, cancer, heart condition, you know, blood disorders, I don't know, arthritis. If you had a choice to get better or keep the disease, see, that's rhetorical, and God bless everybody who has any disorders like that. I hate myself for even making that comparison, but it's true. So I make that choice almost 100% of the time to keep the disease, to keep the disorder. But in the rare case, if I'm forced to, like, I have the obsession, and then I have the anxiety, that anxiety is just there. They don't call it obsessive anxiety compulsive disorder. It's too long. It actually sounds like a TV network. OACD. It's OCD. No, it's OCD. OACD. It's OCD. Um, the compulsion relieves you of the stress, of the anxiety. But if you can't perform that task, and it's against your will, otherwise you would, but you can't perform it, something funny happens to you. You are forced to hold that anxiety. You are forced to hold on to it. Um, you you have to hold it. You can't continue. You like. I'm sorry, I just got a phone call. I'm ignoring it, but I'm distracted. But you have to you have to keep going, and you have anxiety. And you have to be comfortable with what makes you uncomfortable. You have to hold on to that anxiety, and you have to live in that anxiety, and that's called exposure. That's exposure with prevention, uh, with response to prevention. You have to hold on to it. Um, when that happens, a funny thing happens to you. Sorry for the distraction. When you're forced to hold on to your when you're forced to hold on to your anxiety, and you're forced to hold on to that tension, and you're not allowed to commit to that compulsion or that ritual to relieve yourself of that anxiety, um, you get better. And it sucks, and it's the worst mother soul crunching place in the world to be. It steals your soul. It fucks you up. Pardon me. Please forgive me. But there's, nicer words don't cover it. It doesn't ruin your day. You know what I mean? It's not the the doubting disorder. It's fucking devil coming down on you and making you think you just hit two people and their dogs with cell phones and possibly a third a jogger who runs into cars for a living. And you just think you did that. But when you're forced and compelled to not go back, to not check, to not, and you're not giving your enabler, when those things happen to you, you get better. You get better. I'm gonna shut the video off in a second. You have your obsession. You have your intrusive thought. You have the world's most, God forgive me, horrible thing happens in your fucking head. A little Dennis Hopper, Apocalypse Now going on there. It's like, you don't understand, man. He's like he's the colonel, man. you, you, you have your intrusive thought, which is the obsession. It just happens. You can't stop an obsession. You don't want to think about green elephants. Guess what you're going to think about? Green elephants. And then that anxiety comes. And with that anxiety, you want to commit this act called a compulsion, which is a ritual compulsion, give it a name, that relieves you of the anxiety. It does nothing else in life. It doesn't, compulsions 100% of the time never help anybody. They don't help you because they continue the disease. You don't want to keep cancer. You don't want to keep a heart disease. Why do you want to keep OCD? And then finally, the D for disorder. Well, it's a disorder. If you don't seek an enabler while you're in that anxiety stage, if you don't commit a compulsion or a ritual to rid yourself of the anxiety, if you keep going, Winston Churchill said, if you feel like you're in hell, keep going. God bless, sweet. You will get better. Have the obsession. You can't control it. Don't commit to the compulsion. You can control it. Eventually, the obsessions will go away. And that's how it works. Now, easier said than done, but I don't want to just leave you with that because, yeah, so fucking what? Everything's easier said than done. Don't write that off and say, oh, well, it's easier said than done, so I don't have to do it. No, you have to fucking do it to get better, to get healthy. I don't curse that much, but when I talk about cures, I think curses are important. The F-bomb helps when you're trying to make a point. Pardon my Dennis Hopper impersonations tonight. Maybe they're not impersonations. Maybe I'm just a lot more like him naturally than I care to be. But the point is, man, have your obsessions. Everybody does. Fight your compulsions. Fight them. You'll lose sometimes. You'll lose a lot. You lose often. But if you win once, you learn how to not give in. And if you don't give in, you'll grow. Thank you for listening.